Game 4 wasn't just another playoff battle, it was a turning point. The Las Vegas Aces, the defending champions who've been treated like the league's golden team, came in expecting whistles to protect them just like always. But this time, it didn't happen. Instead, the Indiana Fever flipped the script, hammering the Aces in the paint and forcing them to defend every inch of the floor. When Aaliyah Boston and Becky Hammon stormed into the press conference afterward, complaining about fouls and hinting at favoritism, it didn't sound like confidence. It sounded like desperation. And while Vegas cried foul, Aaliyah Boston and her teammates let their play speak louder than any words. Wilson's comments set the internet on fire. She suggested Boston was given a special whistle by the officials, as if referees had suddenly switched sides mid-series. But the numbers don't lie. Boston dropped 24 points, pulled down 14 boards, and dished out 5 assists. That wasn't the result of handouts. That was the result of her sealing deep, drawing contact, and making Vegas defend her on every possession. Wilson's claim of favoritism fell flat once fans saw the stat sheet. What Boston had wasn't a gift, it was sheer dominance. If you needed proof of how rattled Vegas really was, just look at Becky Hammon. On the sidelines, she spent the night throwing her arms up, pleading with refs after nearly every Boston possession. By the time she sat down at the podium, her answers were short, clipped, and dripping with frustration. When asked about the foul disparity, she didn't explain defensive schemes or missed assignments. She simply snapped, "They shot 34 free throws, we shot 11. Next question." That wasn't a coach breaking down a loss. That was a coach admitting her team had been outplayed. The irony is painful. For the first 3 games of the series, the Aces lived at the free throw line. Wilson, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray got calls on the lightest touches. Indiana fans were furious, but the Fever stayed quiet and kept battling. Then, in Game 4, when Indiana finally started attacking the paint and earning whistles, Vegas lost its composure. The very team that benefited from soft calls earlier now wanted sympathy when the same whistle went against them. That's not injustice. That's hypocrisy. Here's the part Vegas doesn't want to acknowledge. Across all 4 games, fouls were almost perfectly even. Both teams sat at nearly identical totals. Whatever advantage Indiana had in Game 4 wasn't some sudden bias. It was balance correcting itself after 3 games of lopsided officiating. For once, the Fever's aggression was rewarded, and Vegas had no answers. Instead of admitting they were outworked, the Aces shifted blame to the officials. To make matters worse, Becky Hammon made one of the most embarrassing mistakes of her coaching career. Late in the 4th quarter, with Vegas still clinging to hope, she called a timeout she didn't have. That's an automatic technical. Indiana got a free point and all the momentum. It was the kind of mental slip you never expect from a championship coach, and it sealed Vegas's fate. Fans roasted the Aces online, saying it wasn't the refs who cost them the game. It was Hammon's meltdown. But make no mistake, this game belonged to Aaliyah Boston. Every time she caught the ball, she lowered her shoulder and forced Wilson to defend in uncomfortable spots. She punished switches, dominated the boards, and showed why she's more than just a rising star. She's a franchise cornerstone. Wilson may have finished with 31 points, but anyone watching knew the truth. She was grinding for every basket while Boston made her impact felt on both ends. By the final buzzer, Boston looked energized. Wilson looked drained. One clip went viral online. Lexi Hull holding her ground on a down screen, only for Wilson to shove her to the floor. The ref was right there, watching, and didn't call it. That's the reality. Even in a game where Vegas swore the refs were against them, Indiana was still fighting through no calls. Hull got up, dusted herself off, and kept playing. Wilson's special whistle narrative collapsed in real time because fans saw with their own eyes that Indiana wasn't being handed anything. They were earning it. This series was billed as an MVP showdown. Wilson's experience and skill against Boston's strength and hunger. What unfolded in Game 4 was more than a duel. It was a war. Wilson relied on finesse, her turnaround jumpers, her footwork. Boston leaned on brute force, carving out space in the paint and forcing Vegas into foul trouble. The longer the game went, the clearer it became. This wasn't Wilson's territory anymore. The paint belonged to Boston. While Boston wore down the Aces inside, Kelsey Mitchell made sure Indiana finished the job. She poured in 25 points, knocked down big threes, and stayed aggressive in crunch time. This wasn't just another strong night, it was a statement. Even Caitlin Clark, watching from the sidelines, leaned over and said what every fan was thinking. Kelsey, unreal. In that moment, Mitchell wasn't just Indiana's closer, she was their heartbeat. Her 7 points won't jump out on a stat sheet, but Lexi Hull's 38 minutes of relentless defense changed the game. She was glued to Jackie Young, one of Vegas's most consistent scorers, and held her in check all night. Hull grabbed 7 rebounds, picked off 4 steals, and even swatted a shot while gutting through a back injury. Every dive on the floor, every box out against bigger players, sent a message. The Fever weren't backing down. When she subbed out briefly, Vegas gained rhythm. When she returned, Indiana slammed the door again. Odyssey Sims had been criticized after her poor showing in Game 3, but she came back with fire. She scored 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting, slicing through Vegas's defense with speed and confidence. Each time Vegas tried to press up on her, she either drew fouls or drilled mid-range jumpers. Her resurgence forced Vegas to spread their defense thin, creating even more room for Boston inside. It was redemption at its finest, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Then there was Shea Petty, who didn't need gaudy numbers to make her mark. With 7 points, 3 boards, and 2 steals in just 16 minutes, she was the calming presence Indiana needed whenever the game threatened to swing. Petty's poise under pressure, her smart spacing, and her steady ball handling kept Indiana composed. Sometimes the most valuable players aren't the stars but the veterans who refuse to panic when the lights are brightest. Game 4 revealed the Fever's winning formula. Attack the paint relentlessly. Force Vegas to defend deep seals and bruising post-ups. Let Mitchell space the floor with outside shooting, and let the role players pick apart defensive gaps. Vegas now has the film, but knowing the blueprint and stopping it are 2 different things. And right now, the Aces look like a team running out of answers. Indiana's resilience makes this even more incredible. No Caitlin Clark, no Sophie Cunningham, no Aari McDonald. Injuries piled up and expectations sank. Yet this team refused to fold. Stephanie White kept the group focused, and her players delivered. While Vegas complains about officiating, Indiana's players are battling through adversity, proving they're built for moments like this. That's the difference between excuses and execution. Now, the stage is set for Game 5 in Las Vegas. The Aces have home court, the crowd, and the desperation of a defending champion facing elimination. But the Fever? They have belief. They have toughness. They have Boston's dominance, Mitchell's fire, Hull's grit, and a roster that knows exactly how to beat Vegas. Clark summed it up from the bench in 2 words: one more. And if Indiana plays with the same fury in Game 5, the defending champions could be walking into their own funeral. The Aces claimed they were robbed, but the truth is far harsher. They were exposed. This wasn't the officials gifting Indiana a win. This was the Fever punching the champs in the mouth, dominating the glass, outworking them in the paint, and closing the game with confidence. If the Aces can't find answers in Game 5, their dynasty may crumble before our eyes. And if Indiana pulls it off, it won't be because of whistles. It will be because Boston, Mitchell, Hull, and the Fever prove that hunger beats entitlement every single time.